Ah.
Hi campers and fellow Kiss fans. Yep, Destroyer. It's all about Destroyer. And I'm Jason Flom, and he commands you to kneel. This is Peter Tejan. And yeah, we're talking about Destroyer. It's a deep dive. Not just the album, of course, but the artwork and all things surrounding it. A lot of Bob Ezrin talk, which will lead to some Alice Cooper talk, right? Okay, so we're going to have a good time. Stay tuned. And first we're going to talk about this artwork because it's monumental.
Yeah, it's just amazing, really.
That's it. Okay, now we're going to talk about the music.
Yep, there it is. There it was.
No, so there's a history behind this, and it goes back to Dennis Wallach, actually, who's the art designer who got, designed Alive on the inside.
Art director.
Yeah, art director. So he was put in charge of finding a painter because they wanted to really magnify their superhero personas. And what's the name of the guy? Frank Frazetta?
Yeah.
Yeah, famous comic, horror / goth painter. They couldn't get him. He demanded too much money. First of all, $15,000, which I know it doesn't seem like a lot now when you think about how much money Kiss has, but more importantly, he demanded complete rights to the artwork. In other words, he only wanted it to be an album cover and not on other things like lunch boxes and things like that.
$15,000, but minimum wage was probably like what, a couple bucks then?
Yeah, exactly. So they decided not to go with him. Now here's the ironic thing. So Dennis Wallach goes down, kind of on the streets of New York. He sees a newsstand, and let me pull this up on my phone because I pulled it up. So he sees this image. See that? He sees that.
Creepy. What number?
Creepy 72. July 75 was the issue of Creepy 72. Mm-hmm. He's seen that. He was like, I like that. I'm taking it upstairs. He goes up into the record plant, shows Gene, because he knows Gene's the comic guy, right? Mm-hmm. And Gene's like, get that guy. Turns out the guy's name was Ken Kelly. Kind of a famous name, right? So here's the ironic thing. Ken Kelly is the nephew of Frank Frazetta. Nephew by marriage. Mm-hmm. And so Ken, they got hold of Ken. Ken was super stoked to do it, super excited. And
so excited he did it twice.
Yes, indeed. Not by choice, but the first rendition, he did it by pencil, showed it to a coin and everybody, and they were like, yeah, we really like that, now go paint it. So he came up with, I know you have it here, and we're going to show this stuff here in a second, because that's what we're doing, we're talking about artwork.
Yeah, the resurrected version.
Okay, so he came up with this first. And obviously it's the Alive costumes. Mm-hmm. And the destroyed city is way closer and more engulfed in flames. Mm-hmm. So he came up with that. And the band and everybody loved it, but Casablanca did not.
I'd always just heard over the years it was because the costumes, Gene says, right, what does he say that in one of the videos? By the time he finished the art, costumes had changed. But it was also because Casablanca didn't want too much destruction back here, I guess.
Yeah, they thought it was too violent, which is kind of funny. Like, did people really think Kiss went around destroying cities? Oh, well, in a way they did, but not like this, physically. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, record company says no, and then a coin lets Ken Kelly know, like, hey, we do love that, but we have a few changes we have to make. Yeah. First of all, Kiss has new costumes now. Yeah. We have to change that. And second of all, we're going to move the destroyed city more in the background and put Kiss up on a mountain. So that is what happened.
It's a pile of rubble, sort of, or,
Yeah. So Ken Kelly was still happy to do it and went back and created this bad boy right here.
Yeah, masterpiece.
Yeah. So we have some things to show you here. So
This is I'm just looking at it because I'm just looking at it now, but you get some cool stuff in the Resurrected reissue. Some cool pics and some cool
this
info
came
there.
out, what, 2012-ish?
And yeah, we were playing together then.
Oh, when this
in,
came out?
in our Kiss tribute. You let me borrow it on CD.
Hey.
Remember that?
No, but
I probably
that's so
returned
nice
it.
of me.
Yeah, I returned it like what? Probably 5 years later.
Ooh, look at that. Blue
yeah.
label and everything.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So that's pretty
right.
cool. So yeah, I mean it's a great album cover as is. I mean it's very cool. That could be an album cover. I gotta say something's really crystallizing with the final version though. I mean,
yeah, but if the final version didn't exist and that was the only one you knew,
it'd be great, of course.
Yeah,
nothing really wrong with it. Yeah, but this one here, just the bluish thing going on, the contrast. I mean, it's got lots of contrast, but it's got depth too, and it's just got way cool colors. The way the orange and the way the logo works off of the blue and the yellow down here, it's just a great album cover. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
And he did Love Gun, of course, also.
Trying to pull up the music again.
And this one here I have is a club one, and it is an old one. And,
when you say club, do you mean Columbia House Records and Tapes or BMG?
Yeah, I think this one is BMG. Yeah, this one's RCA.
Ooh.
So when you got it, you see this. So that was pretty striking also, the Kiss Army thing there. And this here, they're doing kind of a Led Zeppelin 4, Stairway to Heaven, most important song lyric thing. They got Detroit Rock City there. Pretty awesome. The only thing about this one is it didn't have a poster or anything.
Right, that would come
It
later.
didn't have a booklet, but I mean, Alive had a booklet,
Yeah.
which most of us put up as posters.
I like the fact
I know I did.
They did know though already that Detroit Rock City was like going to be a really monumental song for them. So put the lyrics and
Well,
hey,
they got
shout it out loud.
They got the whole thing.
Yeah, that's more like
so.
that's a Kiss Army rallying cry. And this is the first album to promote the Kiss Army. Is that correct? Isn't that right? What they're doing right there?
Yeah. And it's ironic that Detroit Rock City's in here, and lyrically, and then eventually Beth becomes the big hit. This is what they thought the album was all about right here.
Yeah.
But it turns out the album was really actually all about Beth also. So
Yeah.
which a couple of members didn't really want to probably happen, but
Ironically, Detroit didn't even chart when they released it.
that's the irony. It's so strange.
And the most ironic thing is the B-side was their biggest hit, which I think was number 7 or something. So,
But it just shows how charts and stuff, it just matters what's happening at the time. These are very reactionary, and it really doesn't matter because, I mean, Detroit Rock City has ended up being one of the top, 3 biggest Kiss songs of all time.
without a doubt. Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, and the first single off the album was Shout It Out Loud, and that's kind of, predictable. I mean, the big, sing-along chorus and everything. Made it to number 31, very respectable, actually, And the next single, again, they're going for an anthem, Flaming Youth, 70-something. So, I love Flaming Youth. We're going to get to that, but I don't really see that as a single, really. But, and then Detroit didn't chart. And then flip it over, they ended up releasing Beth by popular demand, and that made it to number 7. So, Ken Kelly, so obviously they brought him back for Love Gun later on, and what else? Something else. He did an Ace album, Space Invader. He also did, probably because Rainbow was like, hey, we like what he did on Destroyer, Rainbow Rising, and I think Peter and I can agree, and many of you out there, this is their best album.
Yeah.
This album, if you haven't heard this, by the way.
For me, the first 2 are kind of tied, but the quality level on Rising is
Yeah.
just really good. Yeah.
Blackmore's incredible. Dio's vocals, oh my god. Stargazer, one of the best songs of all time.
Yeah.
That's our rainbow moment, brought to you by Peter and Jason.
Yeah, indeed.
All right.
So I got a 501 series, and I just found this at a local record store. A local record store that doesn't really get too detailed on the Kiss stuff, and they don't know that this is kind of special. And once again, some people don't care about the 501s. It doesn't have all the fancy stuff in there. But they're really nice pressings, actually. There's very few dimples, and it's nice vinyl. And you can tell those for two main reasons. Anybody that knows the album really well can just, you can hear the difference, man. You can hear it. It's scratchy. It's on different paper and stuff, but it's got the kind of faded label on the vinyl there, and then the backs, they have barcodes.
So when you say 501, those came out in the 80s, right?
Yeah, it's a 5.1 numerically. It came out in 84, 85.
So that's the same like pressing that had the double platinum with the.
Yeah.
It wasn't, reflective.
Yeah.
Right. Wasn't Mylar.
But I love it. My Dress to Kill was this original, and it's the same exact materials they use, I think, for the rest of the catalog. So I love it. I found this really clean version. It's like $12 at a record store up the street. I love it.
Which record store?
I won't say.
Okay.
And what else do I have? I have a English version here, which is, it's really just looking a little bit different, but it does have the Casablanca logo there. But down here it says phonogram.
Phonogram.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always liked on the
Price for
if you look on when it lists the band members, it's the order they are on the cover. Okay, that's why Peter is second. You don't see Peter listed second very often.
I don't know if over there they got the correct inner sleeve. This is what I have, and it definitely looks like an old sleeve inside. But yeah, pretty cool. Paper's really thin, kind of like a West German kind of a floppy cardboard. What do you got there, Jason?
No, I actually brought something to show. So I actually picked this up in the last week. I'm a little behind the times.
Couple years behind.
Well, I have the CD. There's the CD edition.
CD version.
We're talking about Destroyer 45th anniversary. Yep, CD version. I had that. I'm a CD guy, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do like vinyl, but
you're in trouble.
If a new Kiss album comes out, I'm just ordering the CD right away.
Yeah.
Anyway, but this is the Destroyer 45th anniversary edition. I pulled the trigger last week. I thought, Peter and I are doing Destroyer next. Let me get this.
It's got the bikes inside.
So first of all, it's just weird to see Destroyer that opens up. Yeah. But you got this photo inside. Cool photo. Kiss with flashlights on motorcycles. All right, and they're trying the Zeppelin.
Are they flashlights?
I don't know. They're lights, and they're pointing them at you.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Ace is holding his up to his crotch.
Whoa.
Yeah. But they got the lyrics to King of the Nighttime World, which I thought was kind of strange, being the cover song of the album.
Yeah.
But the back is pretty much the same, except there's 4 sides now. Inside, you got a booklet, which is right here.
It's a good booklet.
Yeah, same booklets in the CD, of course. But cool photos, cool information, newer interview with Mr. Ezrin and the 4 band members. I think Peter and Ace's interviews are kind of like maybe old interviews. Yeah. That they resurrected, no pun intended.
They don't really want to participate much these days unless they're getting some hard cold cash.
Yeah. But it's
which
cool.
they should, because it'd be cool to have their pay them a bit, get their input.
The first record just kind of reproduces that. Of course, this doesn't have all the where to send in your money to. And then the second album, which is all demos and rehearsal type stuff, looks like that. And then a bunch of ticket stubs, which I really
7 inches too, or is that a 7 incher? Oh, I see. No, it's not. In concert, yeah.
Yeah, so good stuff.
Really cool.
And if you're quick to the internet, go on Amazon. You can get this right now for the low price of $38, which I did.
You work for Amazon, don't you? I heard the way you Bob Barkered that out.
$38. I had to pick it up.
And there's a bunch of mags that kind of covered it at the time, and lots of stuff on YouTube, But this is something that I have that's pretty cool. And it's Guitar Player, that covers the 45th anniversary. And it's pretty good. I gotta say, it's a pretty good issue to pick up. The whole thing isn't Kiss, like maybe close to half is Kiss. So it's probably not going to be expensive. So you can probably get it for $10 or something on eBay or whatever. But pretty darn good coverage of the making of, talking about the making of the album and stuff. So it's got a bunch of, maybe a good 20 couple dozen pages on, so that guitar player that covers Destroyer reissue. That's a pretty good issue.
Right on. And what about those CDs over there?
So we got some CDs here. This is
Whoa.
it's a little, mini album version.
Did that come with bubble gum inside of it?
No.
Okay.
But it's the slimline. It's funny when you put something out like a Pink Floyd or a Kiss album like this on a little jacket, as they call these. It's like, ooh, that's awesome. That's just like the original vinyl. When my band doesn't have a lot of money and presses these ones up, no one wants to buy them. Isn't that funny how that works?
Yeah.
Resurrected on CD. And then, I love these just because they're the original versions that we all had on CD. But very cool. And Destroyer does sound a little louder, a little brighter. I can't remember. I think it's George Marino
I believe so.
remastered, but the Kiss albums always sounded pretty good on CD. Some of the orders were messed up on some of the albums, like on the first album and stuff, but sound quality was really never bad, and they were always fairly loud, so. There's the remaster. Got 7-inch here for Detroit Rock CD. Where
I really
this?
like your
Is
7-inch.
this Japanese? You like my 7-inch?
I think that is Japanese
Just make
because
sure
I
you
can't
don't-
read a word of that.
Just try not to step on my big 7-inch.
Big 7-inch record right here.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
By the way, we're going to connect Aerosmith and Kiss later in this episode.
Aerosmith, Kiss, Jack
Yeah.
Douglas.
Ooh, don't give it away.
Don't give it away.
Okay. And this, my friends, is the book that tells you all about this album, and not just the album, but it goes into detail about the engineers, Corky and Jay, obviously Bob Ezrin, the history of the band leading up to this. This James Campion is the author of Shout It Out Loud, The Story of Kiss's Destroyer, and The Making of an American Icon. I can't recommend this enough. And
It's a good book, and you got it on audio. So.
as my treat to you, our fans, I'm going to tell you right now, this is free on audiobook. So go to audiobook. I'm sure many of you have the app.
But buy the book also.
Yes.
Actually, don't listen to it.
I mean, I already have the book. I just wanted to be able to drive around and listen to it pre-show here. So it's free.
It's
It's
a good
free on
book.
audiobook. I
It's a great
assume
book.
many of you have this, but it's amazing. It really is amazing. Really goes. A lot of the information we'll be giving you, I stole from this book, but I can't remember every single thing. So please listen to that if you're into this album and want more detail, because it really goes into detail.
Yeah.
Okay, so the music, man. Let's talk about the music.
So they're on a high from Alive.
Yeah.
They cut some demos like in the summer. Was it summer, fall?
August 75, and I know that because we're listening to it right now.
Yeah.
They cut a 15-song demo, and it was kind of here, Bob, this is what we're giving you these songs. What do you want to do with them?
When I hear those demos, all these years I've heard the demos off and on, and I thought to myself, the songs in the first 3 albums are really strong, and they came to this huge climax on Alive, and then they cut these demos, and I gotta say, songwriting wise, it's just my opinion that they do seem tired. Like, not all the songs are amazing,
Well, it's funny you bring that up, Peter, because Bob Ezrin felt the same way. Only 2.5 songs from these 15 songs Bob liked. That would be Detroit Rock City, a speeded up Sexual God of Thunder, and a song called Mad Dog by Gene. Actually, he only liked a riff in the song. All 3 of those obviously ended up getting used. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's good stuff on there, but
So Mad Dog is a bomb.
Flaming Youth.
It's got the part of Flaming Youth.
Flaming Youth.
Yeah.
So, maybe another producer or Kiss themselves would have used more of these songs. And some of these songs did get used later on. One song became Calling Dr. Love. I think there was a ladies' room in there. I think some Gene solo stuff's on there.
Yeah.
So they did, use some of these. But Ezrin, he's a different character, and he only heard potential in 2.5 songs. So yeah, that was August 75.
Thank God, because I mean, it's just an amazing album, you know. So it took like somebody like him to see what they could do, push him. And let's admit, he wrote a lot of stuff too.
Oh,
you know.
yes.
So
let's talk about Bob
Yeah.
Ezrin for like 90 minutes now, because he's worthy of talking about for 90 minutes. So really quick, Bob Ezrin, he's the same age as Gene, by the way. So when he was doing this, he's 26. You know, he's a young guy. He's Jewish, fit in right in with Gene and Paul. But he got to start basically producing Alice Cooper. You know, he produced some other stuff here and there, but he made Alice Cooper what Alice Cooper is, and made him successful, really. From Love It to Death all the way to beyond Welcome to My Nightmare, actually. He taught Alice Cooper's band basically how to play their instruments, and when they couldn't cut it, he would bring in this guy named Dick Wagner. Does this sound familiar? So yeah, he was a taskmaster. He cracked that whip.
blew that whistle. I hear that story all the time.
Oh yeah,
When he blows the whistle.
Yes. So basically, he wasn't just okay. Let's plug in and record. He had all these different techniques he was implicating. He wrote, not just on, he wrote on piano. He arranged things. He had a classical background, so Kiss, they had never worked with a guy
He was
like
just
this.
very musical all around.
Oh, big time.
And he understood the visual thing too. And so that's why a lot of the songs are really coloring up the characters for the band, really. And he understood that they needed to do that and take it to another level. Or they could take it to another level, of course. So
Absolutely. Yeah, he wanted Kiss to, because he went to see them sometime in '75. I think they were playing Pontiac, Michigan. And he said the show was great, but you played in front of 9,000 14-year-old pimply boys. And we want to create more of a, we want...
he said that?
Yeah. And we want more women to show up. We want, we want to make this thing bigger than life, larger than life, excuse me. So
a kid had told him about Kiss.
yeah, a kid would call him up. Like
You
a
gotta hear this.
14-year-old
You gotta
kid.
hear this band. Blah blah blah.
Their
And
albums
then
aren't very good, but they're so good.
Did he? I don't know if he said that.
yeah,
Really?
Yeah, he
I
said
think
that's why you have to work with them.
Really? I thought he just said they were killer. But they ran into him.
2 weeks later, they ran into Bob in Toronto, going up a stairwell. And Bob said, I was told I was supposed to work with you guys from this kid.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, really quick. Kiss, all four guys, probably more Gene and Paul, but we're big Alice Cooper fans. In fact, here's a date for you. June 3rd, 1973, all four members of Kiss together go to Madison Square Garden.
Wait a minute. One of them didn't. Did Peter not go? I thought three of them went.
I heard all four did, but
Okay.
if you heard otherwise, at least three went. Wouldn't surprise me if Peter didn't
Maybe
go.
they all did. Huh?
I know for a fact that Ace and Peter went, but I'm sure Gene was there too. Or excuse
They
me,
literally said, "What
Ace
if
and
we
Paul
had?"
definitely went, because
Yeah.
there's a story about them running up front to be in the very front.
They literally said, at that point, "What if we had 4 Alice Coopers?"
Yes.
Different. Yeah.
Yes. Quick fun fact:
So
who
that's a
opened
big
up
thing.
that Alice Cooper show? Flo and Eddie.
Flown in.
They would come into history later on.
Connections there. that's for sure.
But anyway, they were Alice Cooper fans, obviously. They were familiar with Bob Ezrin and his work with Alice. And Alice was pretty similar to Kiss at one point. His first couple albums didn't really do much. They were very different. He hadn't found his stride yet. Enter Bob Ezrin. Guess what? Magic. Absolute magic. So Kiss, kind of the same way. I mean, we all know and love the first 3 albums.
No, the first 3 albums were strong, really strong.
Yeah,
But-
absolutely. But
he brought the magic to this.
oh yes, this is a whole other dimension. So that's exactly what they knew Bob could do, and that's why when they ran into Bob on the stairwell, they were like, "Yeah, let's talk about this."
And Bob's story is that he said, "Do you like your albums?" He always says that. He asked Paul, "Do you like your albums?" Paul said yes. And at that point, he probably did. Till they made this one.
Yeah.
But, so interesting.
yeah, so they record these demos for Bob. He likes 2.5 songs. They start initial recording in September, some basic tracks, and then the full thing was really done in January of '76 at the record plant, legendary.
And they would write in all sorts of different ways. Like they would write at Bob's apartment. They would be in the studio and say, I guess he would say, who's got an idea? You know, what do we got? What can we pull together? So it came out in different ways. Paul said, I think it's in Paul's book, he says they would bring amps over sometimes and rock out, not just on piano, but guitars and put stuff together with Bob.
Yeah, Gene, Paul, and Bob really became close during this. Peter and Bob, Ace and Bob, different story. Although in hindsight, both of those guys, especially Ace, like totally respects Bob, and he's actually called Bob a genius.
He calls him a genius all the time, but he just doesn't have the same kind of work ethic.
No,
he
not
wants to rock out. He wants to rock out when he wants to, when he feels like it, and you know, there's deadlines. There's just, you know, Ace he doesn't really work like that usually. It seems like so.
Yeah, in fact, there's stories of, especially early on in the recording, of Bob basically taking them to musical boot camp. Because apparently at one time he told Peter to play in 7/8, and Peter looked at him like,
Flaming Youth's got some 7.
Yeah,
that Mad Dog riff. At at one point it turns to 7/8. Yeah.
Yeah. So he had to really teach all of them, not just Peter. Take them to school because you got to speak the same language when you're trying to create something like this. But yeah, so January '76 they start on this record. So the first song, obviously, and we all know it, Detroit Rock City.
I guess that's Bob. Dude, that's Bob. That's the.
Talking, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was Gene.
So did I.
Don't you think it sounds like Gene?
I thought it was Gene until this week when I.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because
I heard Bob say it. No, that's me. I'm like, if he's saying that's him, so he created the whole thing.
Is that him singing along in the car too? Like, you know.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
anyway, I like the intro.
They recorded that whole thing with the car and everything, I guess, at the record plant.
Yeah.
Or outside.
I was told Bob went out with his recording equipment to some employee's car there who worked there, and they did all that. So that I like it. I like it. Sets the scene. Song starts.
It's amazing. It's so cool, you know.
Yeah, I'll say about Detroit Rock City what I can say about the whole album. It's not my favorite Kiss album or song, but I think it's their best album. It's their masterpiece.
Yeah.
And same with Detroit Rock City. It's a masterpiece.
It's kind of like the Rainbow thing. You know, I listened to the first album more, but Rainbow Rising is probably the best album. You got to admit, you know. I think Destroyer has a stigma with it, but everybody's heard these songs so much. I had a friend who used to work at a record store up here, and he would be this guy in the early days on, what was it called, Pirate Bay, and just downloading Kiss DVDs and stuff and burning them for me. He was one of those computer guys, and he had that going on in the early days. And he would say to me all the time, you know, I really don't really care for Destroyer or much after it. I'm like, what? He stops it alive, and because he just wants rock and roll.
He's a silver and black guy.
Just straight up rock and roll. I think he likes If After. I think he was dramatizing that, probably to partially, you know, get my attention, piss me off, whatever. But a lot of people are kind of like that. They Destroyer doesn't do it for some people, for the orchestra, the arrangements, the reverbs, but I just want to say, whatever. Who cares? This isn't Dressed to Kill, but it ain't supposed to be Dressed to Kill.
No, it's
you know
not.
what I mean? I wouldn't say it's just a different thing. I wouldn't say it's necessarily better than Dressed to Kill or vice versa, but it is a magical album.
They were making a blatant attempt to get away from that and do something better. So you got to remember, the first three albums did not sell well. And each one sold a little better than the last. But when Alive came out, that exploded. Alive was it was gold by the time they even started recording this, or at least in January. And so they were taking a risk doing this.
It's a really special album at the perfect time. You know what I mean? 3 really good albums, but not really celebrated at the time. Alive hits. What are they going to do next? And then they just release a mega album. The next album is this with this cover. You know what I mean? What kid or even, 20-something wouldn't be interested in that?
I feel like everything was building up to this.
Yeah, and they just did the right thing at the right time.
If they would have went back to just I don't know, say they bring back Kenny and Richie or something, and do just a rock album.
Which they kind of did. Rock. You got to admit, rock and roll.
Well, that was Eddie
Gun.
Kramer though.
That's basically Kiss kind of producing.
And by
those.
that time, they had the world in their hands.
Yeah, I mean they're on a roll at that point.
Yeah.
But Destroyer came out just at the perfect time.
Yes. And I thank Bob Ezrin.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Detroit Rock City it's Bob, it's Paul. I think they're the two writers on that. It's amazing. I mean, if you listen to the Detroit Rock City demo, which many of you have heard, it's pretty simplistic as far as what it became.
It's very repetitive.
It has a solo in it, which
it's got a lot of solos, right?
Yeah, they don't impress me. But so Bob wrote the solo.
They're kind of shreddy. I mean, they're kind of cool, but
Bob wrote the solo on piano, and Ace, to his credit, learned it on guitar, and then Paul comes in with the harmony guitar there, and it's definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to explain, but you can tell it was written out and it's calculated, but it sounds organic and right.
Yeah.
And it's probably, would you say it's one of their most iconic guitar solos? You know?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing's more melodic than that.
Oh, yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's just a great song. It builds momentum. There's cool little interludes, guitar interludes and stuff. The big grand piano. It's total Bob Ezrin. Okay? So then, of course, the grand finale happens. The
car crash, and it couldn't go into a better tune. It just carries right into King of the Nightime World.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned it as a cover, and I want to say, they didn't write it, but it wasn't recorded before that, was it?
No, it wasn't officially released.
Yeah, so different songwriter, but didn't Paul get his name on it somehow?
Yeah, Paul rewrote some lyrics.
Yeah.
I think Bob too. I think Bob's name's on there. So the Hollywood Stars is a band. They were managed by Kim Fowley and a guy named Mark Anthony was in the band. So they were the ones who wrote the song. And then Bob and Paul kind of tweaked it a bit, made it more Kiss-like, the lyrics anyway. But yeah, it's
killer. It's so killer to see them do it with that whole backdrop and everything on the Halloween special. Yeah. It's so cool. Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. I always like when they pull that one out live. They're probably done doing that at this point, but it was great throughout the years live. I love it. It's Paul. So this is the thing. Bob wanted them to really pull out their personas. Like, let's face it, we all love Dress to Kill. You look at that album cover. If somebody told you which one's the demon back then, you'd be like, well, I think it's Gene. But there's no doubt right here.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so they weren't really superheroes yet. This made them superheroes. And Paul's the lover and King of the Nighttime World. It's like his theme song, if you ask me. But yeah, just amazing. Love the guitar solo.
I mean, Detroit Rock City and King of the Nighttime World, they belong together.
Oh,
that's kind of like, Livin', Lovin', Made and Heartbreaker or whatever. You know what I mean? They got to go together. Or We Are the Champions, and you know what I mean? They belong together. So much that, of course, like we mentioned when we did our Live 2 episode, they weren't really doing that anymore on the tour, right? But they recorded King of the Nighttime World too.
Yep.
Because it's got to be there.
Yeah, I always felt when they opened up with it on the Dynasty tour that it just, I don't know, it just didn't
Not a
work.
really great opener.
A great song,
but a killer continuing kind of.
Yeah, it's the perfect second song. Yeah. Okay, so then all of a sudden we have
a really cool drum beat.
That's
a really cool Peter.
Kind of a military march for a bit.
Yeah,
Peter worked his ass off on this album, and he'll tell you that. Yeah, he's proud to tell you that. Bob really cracked the whip on Peter. Like, he's blowing that whistle a lot. So much so that I guess to keep Peter in time, he was like, he had something hooked up so Peter could hear him.
In the control room, he was.
Yeah, so, but he got the best out of Peter, and Peter, to this day, will tell you that his best drumming is on this album. And I totally agree. I mean, come on. Listen to Destroyer and concentrate on the drums. You'll be blown away. And you can thank Bob Ezrin. Okay, so next up,
there's a lot of cocaine going around this album too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is. I mean, Ace Frehley had just started doing it, like on the tour right before this, maybe.
No, I from what I heard, it was during the making of this.
Oh, really?
Probably from Bob.
Because Bob and Peter Criss is saying he was starting to do a lot of coke to keep up with Bob.
Ace is like, Bob, what's that on the console there?
And Gene saw a mirror on the console or something during this, or was that during this story? I think it was.
Probably.
It's like cocaine era, kind of. You don't think of it as a cocaine album, but
no.
I guess it's the fuel. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, Bob was out of his mind too, but he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
He wasn't out of control with it. He wasn't playing cards instead of showing up at the studio. I'm not ranking on Ace though.
Yeah, you are. Yes, I heard it.
Facts. God of Thunder's next, and so that's Ezrin's son, his two sons, David and Josh. From what I read, they were 8 and 10. They sound younger to me, but that's them on God of Thunder.
They got like a walkie-talkie helmet transmitter kind of kid's toy.
Yes,
thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
probably with some echo and stuff on it, but
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, they sound demonic. If you ask me, I always thought that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
You picture like Damien and kids like that. But I think they totally complement the song. I mean, that's the first thing you hear is some demonic kid saying, "Okay, start singing." And God of Thunder is, I don't know what I ranked it on our top 20 Kiss songs, but I'm telling you right now, it's top 5.
Yeah,
because
totally,
that song, oh my God.
My band does it.
Yeah. It's absolutely incredible. So it's one of those songs, fortunately, it's very well documented from the first demo to this, to even the resurrected version. So what do you think of God of Thunder? Obviously your band does it. You must.
Oh yeah, it's one of 2 or 3 covers that we do when we want to throw a fun cover in. But it's just, I think it's just kind of amazing. Right off the bat, get TRX, ADK, and Nightime World into God of Thunder. Just an amazing side one.
Find me a better 3 Kiss songs in a row.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't do it. Somebody's going to do it.
They slowed it way down, and the ambience on it is much different than Paul's version. Paul's lyrics are different on the demo. What was it? What are some of his lyrics?
We'll make love till we bleed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Different lyrics,
Yeah, it's more about Aphrodite and being raised by women. And
he didn't really want to let go of the song at first, I guess. But, they changed some of the lyrics and stuff to make it work to be a good Gene song.
I read that Gene actually wrote the line, I command you to kneel.
Yeah.
So, he didn't get credit though. But
and Paul wrote
I think Paul's name is the only one on the writing credit, right?
I'm 93, you're 16 or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Paul wrote that, so
Yeah. So God of Thunder, absolutely incredible. Can't say enough about it. And here, we haven't even mentioned the best thing about it. Those vocals. Oh my God.
Yeah.
This is the true Demon song. Those vocals, how does he do that?
It's really the first one, isn't it? It's the first straight up Demon song.
That's the whole thing, and the fact that Paul wrote it is the big ironic thing about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just those vocals are like, I can get tears in my eyes just go, like, how did this guy do this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, a guy from the Doobie Brothers can sing like that. It's Gene, the demon. You know what I mean? It's like, for the record, a guy from the Doobie Brothers wouldn't want to do that, but they do fine on their own. But I'm just saying, only Gene could pull this off.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's, oh God, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Now, something very interesting. I read, or should I say, I listened to it on the audiobook, available now on audiobook for free. Dick Wagner said he thinks he played on God of Thunder.
Yeah?
The solo.
The solo?
Yeah. Now, Bob said, I don't know, it sounds like Ace to me. I can hear Ace doing that, but if
no one else has ever
if
said
Dick
that.
said he did, then maybe he did. So no one really knows. I do know this. If you listen to some live versions of God of Thunder, Ace doesn't play it anywhere near that.
Maybe he messed around for a minute.
Yeah.
Different side guys, they come in, they mess around in the studio on a song. They don't really know what happens to it later. They don't know if Ace came back in and did a different solo or they don't know. They're not there the whole time, so they still don't know. I think what Bob says is probably what Bob says is king. I think
I'm assuming it was Ace.
Yeah.
I mean, why is it such a well-known thing that Wagner played on Sweet Pain, but you never hear anything about God of Thunder, which is way more of an iconic song. So I'm not spreading rumors or anything. I'm just saying what I heard. Okay, so God of Thunder, right on. It was a good song to open up for a drum solo live, which they started doing right away on the Destroyer tour.
Yeah.
This next song. Oh, let me say something really quick about Destroyer. This is a by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it starts off obviously with Ezrin's kids. Now, think about this.
You mean God of Thunder?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're backtracking a bit.
Yeah.
From the first album he did with Alice Cooper, there's Ballad of Dwight Fry. What do you hear in the very beginning of it? Mommy, where's Daddy? He's gonna go.
Oh, yeah?
Okay.
Is that it? Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There's kids singing on School's Out, obviously. The whole chorus. There's kids on, he did Lou Reed's Berlin. His very same sons, the same ones that are on God of Thunder, on a song on that album.
Yeah. Dude, hey, free labor, man. Free labor.
Yeah, there's kids on Welcome to My Nightmare.
Yeah.
I think the song Steven. He was into recording kids. He said kids' voices are, they're just real. You know what I mean? It's real emotion. So yeah, it's
like when the kid screams, "Oh no!" What he says,
yeah,
or "Oh, don't do that," or whatever he says when he screams in the middle. In the middle of the tune.
And here's one for you, from The Wall.
Uh-huh.
These kids on, isn't it Another Brick in the Wall Part 2? Yeah, at the end. So
yeah, that's a chorus. Yeah,
a lot of kids on Ezrin records. This is the point I'm trying to make. But yeah, so the next song.
So I think God of Thunder one of the ones that was done like in what they said was kind of a back room, corridor, entryway, garage, like metal garage door.
I don't remember that. I
mean,
remember Peter talking about recording drums in an elevator, I think, for the song.
I think it's I don't know which songs it is, but I thought it was Dirt Rock City certainly has a big reverby sound, but I think it's Do You Love Me? And I thought it was God of Thunder. And I guess one of the takes for one of these songs, someone starts taking out the trash.
Oh, no. Okay. So Peter recorded the drums in an elevator. This is like 3 or 4 in the morning. And this is a Peter story, so take it with a grain of salt. He said while he was recording, the elevator door opened and some garbage men got in. He called them garbage men. They're janitors. Garbage men.
AKA.
Oh, I got a funny story about garbage men, though, involving this album.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, so he said they got in the elevator to pick up some trash or something. I don't know. But so really quick, sidebar. A lot of hijinks went on during this album. Yeah. A lot of Ezrin liked to keep things loose. So there's a story about them wrapping up, I don't know, some assistant or something, totally wrapped up in gaffer tape and literally putting him in the dumpster outside. And the garbage truck came and literally took him away.
Really?
Yeah. And they also taped a guy up. Gaffer tape was a big thing back then. They taped a guy up and taped him to a pole outside. And they said for an hour people walked by and no one even did anything.
What?
Yeah. And there's stories about taping guys up and putting them in Anvil cases and a lot of crazy cocaine.
I think that's what it is. Yeah. And free gaff tape, obviously, paid for by the studio.
Yeah, exactly. And this isn't a funny story, but it's a story we're telling. There's a story about Paul's Gibson on the cover of Alive. He had it at the studio. He was recording with it.
Broke.
Breaky break. And the guy that broke it said Paul was real, when he ended up telling Paul about it, Paul was super cool and said, hey, don't worry about it, man. I'll send it back to Gibson. We have a deal with them.
But still, where's that guitar? If that guitar was around now, it doesn't really matter. It's just historical.
Anyway,
it's on the cover of Alive.
Yeah, they couldn't fix it.
And he probably just discarded it.
They couldn't fix it, but they made him a new one, which never ended up seeing. I don't remember that. But
well, they had all sorts of guitars backstage for backups and stuff.
Yeah, so a lot of fun things were going on.
This is when Ace is using like an Explorer sometimes. Right?
You did that. You used a Les Paul a lot on this too.
So a variety of guitars. Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of hijinks going on. Ezrin liked to keep things loose. He tells stories about how between takes he would tell jokes just to keep the mood loose. Because if things stay intense, people are gonna like second guess themselves, and So Ezrin, he knew what he was doing.
I always heard a lot about Ezrin being really tough on him, but was it tongue in cheek? I mean, when he walked up to Gene supposedly and said, "Don't you ever stop again," you know what I mean? After the take, where, I mean, is he half joking? Is it
No,
I wonder.
I mean,
Paul in his book says a trickle of sweat ran down Gene's face. I mean, pretty dramatized version, but I just wonder,
I mean, it's like tough love. Not the Kiss song "Tough Love." I'm just saying he loved them, so therefore, it's like if you're talking to your kids, telling them they're doing something wrong. But
was it all in good humor? I mean, have they kind of dramatized it up over the years? Like, was it really that serious?
I don't think Kiss was used to being talked to that way.
Yeah.
Kenny and Richie weren't talking to him that way.
Yeah.
So, it was just their first experience with a producer who wanted things run his way.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, but you are right. Kiss over dramatized things.
Maybe,
a little bit.
Was he just a wisecrack and, was he more of actually a peer to them than we're
He did have a whistle around his neck and wasn't afraid to blow it.
He did? He went around the corner and bought a whistle? And, totally.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so Great Expectations. What do you have to say?
By the way, I'm looking at this here, and they didn't want the violent cover, but look at the back.
Yeah, that's pure violence.
I mean, look at that. Kiss.
That's
the most violent band I've ever heard of in my life.
Yes.
I mean, you're thinking Deicide or something like that. I mean, come on. No, it's Kiss. Look at that.
Yeah.
Cities and flames.
Burning cities in their wake. At least it's the back cover.
Yeah, true.
So Great Expectations. So this is they got the Brooklyn Boys Choir to sing on this. A lot of people would say this is their least favorite track on the album. And okay.
I love it because of the dynamic.
I love it too.
This is their Sgt. Pepper, and they knew that. They knew that it was going to be important because of the variety, and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
But when you say something's your least favorite, that might imply you don't like it. And so if I say it's my least favorite besides Beth, then don't think I don't like it because I absolutely love it. I think it's incredible. So Beethoven's
a little Beethoven in there.
Sonata number 8, I believe. Yeah, that intro is Beethoven. And Peter explained to me earlier why they didn't have to credit Beethoven. Because
I think it's 75 years and it's in the public domain. Unless the family does something, I think you might be able to do things in some cases. But most of the composers,
So
it's their music's up for grabs these days. So you see a lot of classical labels releasing stuff like crazy because you can. It's public domain, so...
All right, so therefore, Beethoven gets no writing credit.
Yep, poor Beethoven.
It's Gene and... little did Beethoven know he would end up on a Kiss record. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gene,
why not, though?
Gene and Ezrin get the credit.
Yeah.
It's a great song, Beatlesque. It's one of the... Like Ezrin was telling them before they even started recording, he wanted to really connect them with the fans, and this song is directly sung
about
to the fans.
A particular fan.
Yeah, of the female variety.
Yeah,
right?
so they're still talking about ladies. They're just doing it they're just channeling it through Beethoven.
But it's a good song. It's a good song.
I love it. I
think the choir adds to it so much.
The way the album comes down into this space after God of Thunder, it's just a great placement.
Yeah, and it's really hard to believe that the voice you hear singing that song was the guy who sang the song before. It's like
that's true. 2 consecutive Gene songs.
Yeah.
I mean, when they made this album, they didn't want to do the same song, the same kind of song over and over. It wasn't supposed to be, Highway to Hell, where it's just same kind of similar drive from song to song. They wanted those peaks and valleys, and they just wanted to be ridiculously eclectic because I swear it's got to be Sgt. Pepper's. It had to be what they're thinking,
Yeah, in fact, as far as the choir's concerned and the orchestration, especially in Beth, Gene justified it by knowing that the Beatles used orchestration in Yesterday.
Yeah.
That's how he justified it.
Oh, really?
If the Beatles thought it was cool, then we'll do it too.
Yeah.
So, but Great Expectations, I think it's a good ending to side one.
Alice Cooper,
There you go.
Some of those,
There you go. Alice Cooper. I'll talk about him all day.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's side 2 start off with? I don't know.
What could it be? Yeah, Flaming Youth, that's a favorite from here.
Yeah, so first of all, I find it ironic that, Ezrin's album before this, Welcome to My Nightmare, which has a lot of similarities to this album, but none more similar than the first song on side 2 of that album is Department of Youth. So, yeah. So, Flaming Youth, though, that was a band that Kiss played with at Coventry in '73, all-female band.
Yeah.
And Gene resurrected the title.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a Frankenstein type of song. They took parts of, well, the Gene song we were talking about earlier, Mad Dog. Yeah. And
it's got sections in it that are 7/8, which is different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has a calliope.
But Kiss didn't always do 4/4 straight all the time. Even up into the '80s and everything on Animalize, they're dropping beats. They're throwing in 7/8. They're taking off beats to be fancy, say on the end of the way they want to come out of a chorus, back in the verse or something like that. They played around with stuff. I think that Bob Ezrin didn't just make them good, in my opinion, but he did add all of this color,
he brought
all this great production, and helped really shape and give them direction. But
adding color is a good way to put it.
To me, they did cool stuff before also, but this is kind of on another level, though.
Oh, yes. So much so that at one point, hey, there's a delivery for Mr. Bob Ezrin. So the guy goes out, probably Corky or somebody, goes out to the road where they have this calliope that they rented. Mm-hmm. And he said it looked like a hot dog stand.
You hear it on the demo, pretty good on the demo.
Yeah, and you hear it on here, and to be honest with you, I always thought it was just like some cool pipe organ
or something. I thought it was like an air organ or some organ.
So I've heard people say, why is there a calliope on there? It sounds like some circus song. No, I've never once listened to Flamin' Youth and thought of it as a circus song.
I love it. It's not too loud, but it's in there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It sounds like a really cool organ, and you don't hear that organ on Deep Purple albums or anything. It's just it stands alone. It's like its own sound.
Yeah.
But the song itself, it's a great song. So Paul, Ace, and Gene, and Bob.
They changed the pronouns on the demo. It's we. It's a lot of we and stuff, and then it's a lot of I's on the final version.
Yeah. So the song before is
making the first person.
The song before is kind of towards a female fan, but now Paul in this first song side 2 he's like one of the male fans. You know what I mean? He's stupid and lazy and all that stuff. Or his parents say so.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
We're stupid and we're lazy is what they say on the demo, and on here it's
exactly. Yeah. So basically, he's singing about the hardships that the fans might be receiving from their parents. But yeah, great song.
Yeah.
Don't rank on the calliope people. It adds.
I've always loved Flaming Youth.
Yeah.
Always.
Great song.
And obviously, they knew how cool it was and what a fresh vibe it had. They started side 2 with it,
Yeah, and it was the second single, and they performed it live that spring, I believe.
I wouldn't necessarily think it'd be big on the radio,
no.
I guess. But it's just too interesting, too musical for that sort of, but great tune. It's a favorite. So.
Definitely. So, Sweet Pain. So, Gene has to get a sex song in here, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Gene's ode to S&M.
Little S&M.
So, yeah, Sweet Pain is the song that probably has risen in my list of Kiss songs.
Really, yeah?
Yeah, like that, to be honest with you, Poppy was my least favorite song on the album for years.
What?
I know.
I think it was my go-to for a long time. I put on side 2 and go straight to it.
No, I'd skip it sometimes, but
really?
Don't get me wrong, I fucking love it now.
Well, I hate you. I heard Bob Ezrin regrets that guitar intro, that kind of majory sounding guitar intro.
With the acoustic behind it, sounds
he
great.
thinks that doesn't fit in. He actually, he's overthinking it, obviously, in retrospect, because that doesn't fit in, but Great Expectations does, or Beth does. I think it's great. I think it's always been really cool. And then when the band busts in, it's really cool. Yeah, but it's funny, that's what he said.
It starts off, those guitars sound so rich.
Yeah.
Another Ezrin trick is the whole acoustic guitar, electric guitar together.
The acoustic
tuned down
is Dick, right? Isn't the acoustic Dick? And then the solo, I thought he did the acoustic.
I only heard that he did the solo on it, but that would not surprise me.
Probably
He
is
did do
Gene.
acoustic on Beth, obviously. But yeah, just a great song. Cool changes in it. Great vocals. I love the female vocals too.
I just love the way it kicks in and boom. It's been a favorite, and yeah.
They did it live once.
I've always kind of thought it was the "Got Love for Sale" song of Destroyer. You know,
There you go. Yeah.
that cool underrated Gene song.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, Sweet Pain's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So next up would be Shout It Out Loud. Okay,
I've never heard that one. I guess I can't talk about it. I've never quite heard.
Okay, let me take over. Shout Out Loud was the first single on the album.
We're gonna shout it out loud.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. The Wicked Lester covered the Holly song. I think it's called "We Want to Shout." I think that's what they call it.
That was a Holly song?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So Gene recognized that could be an anthem. Shout
You're
It Out Loud.
smart.
So that Gene, I guess, probably came up with the title. But Bob, Paul, and Gene wrote this around a piano in Bob's apartment. And I think Paul had a guitar. Bob was at the piano. And they came up with it. And according to Bob, the whole thing was written in like 25 minutes. Or at least they knew exactly what it was going to sound like. And I think it's a perfect sing-along anthem.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, they got the call and response vocals. That's total Motown.
It's so good. It's so good. But then again, I think Tomorrow and Tonight's actually really good. So I guess I'm a little silly.
I absolutely agree.
You like it too? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Tomorrow and Tonight is like Shout Out Loud Part 2, really. But it's just incredible. Obviously, Paul and Gene sing it together.
Yeah.
The call and response, though, I mean, God, you can't beat that when it's done good.
Dude, I mean, to have Detroit and God of Thunder and Shout It Out Loud all on the same album, I mean, those are just like the biggest.
You know what?
Songs.
If you add Do You Love Me and Beth, they do those 5 songs live to this day. So yeah, this album, iconic.
With this production that really colors it, and with those songs, this really delivers them to not just a rock crowd. This delivers to them to a pop level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, expanding their audience.
It's just a really, really important album. And then luckily they kind of kept it there for a while with Rock and Roll Over Love Gun and stuff. And then the 13 albums they released in like 77 and 78. or 7 or whatever it was. But
So the next track is very well documented as well.
Beth?
Yes.
Don't know her.
By the way, I have a sister named Beth. He has an ex-girlfriend named Cher. So we are qualified people.
That's why we started this.
Yeah, exactly. Beth.
Beth is great, but it doesn't rock. Let's just admit that.
You have to go back to the Chelsea. Chelsea's just breaking up, Peter's old band, and Lips are just starting, and they're getting some songs together. Lips was Stan Penridge and Peter, and they wrote a song called Beck, which basically is verbatim when their guitar player, I think Michael Brand was his name, talking to Becky, his girlfriend or wife, on the phone, and what he was saying to her. And Stan Penridge said he was writing it all down. And so they came up with the song Beck, which, originally the lyrics are kind of different. Something about
it's like, I know you complain.
Yeah, something about complaining.
Very subtle lyrics, but
so it was kind of just a joke song. It was a novelty song. That's what he even called it. So they never actually demoed it. It was just kind of a recording they did. They never. It wasn't on their demos they presented to record companies. And the story is not true that Peter played the song for Neil Bogart in like 72 or so, and he kicked them out of his office. That never happened. That's a Peter story made up.
Get me out of the office.
Yeah, Peter made that up.
To me, Beth it's a well-written song. It's a great song. It's really rewritten by Bob Ezrin, of course. If you hear that demo with the bongos and stuff, you can hear that there's a lot of changes and stuff that Bob Ezrin added. Chord changes, I mean. To me, when I hear Beth and the way it sits on this album, in comparing them to Beatles again, there's like one song besides Let It Be, where Paul McCartney did not want to wait for George Martin to do an arrangement for, and that was for No One. For No One? I'm pretty sure it's For No One. And George Martin had a way of keeping these a little tongue in cheek, a little humor in there. Don't make it too schmaltzy, there's something about Beth where it doesn't have that depth. It doesn't have, I don't know what it is, but how it doesn't really fit in the Kiss catalog because it's kind of fluff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
mm-hmm.
I always think
Gene and Paul thought so too.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. But I mean, it's a good song, but I think about that with that Beatles song too. Because For No One, it's pretty just straight up a dramatic arrangement where George Martin, he doesn't like it. He said he would have done it all different. Mm-hmm. I don't know what Paul McCartney ever said about that, but that's what I compare it to all the time in my mind when I hear it. Okay. It's good, but
okay, yeah,
could have been cooler.
Yeah, and there's the story of when Peter was finally recording the vocal for it, which I happen to know was January 13th, 1976. Uh-huh. Gene and Paul were sitting there on a couch in front of him, just kind of like, yeah, and Peter's went on record as saying, I just want those fuckers to leave, sitting there stone-faced, looking at me and laughing and giggling. So Bob actually got over there and said, hey, you guys, get the fuck out of here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they left, and...
that song ended up putting them on a whole nother level.
Yeah, apparently the vocals, it's a compilation of 10, 15 takes.
Everything's like that.
Yeah.
All the vocals on Shout at the Devil, Bark at the Moon. I mean, that's what people do. You know what I mean? They want to say that about Peter, but maybe their vocals are pretty much a lot of the time straight through. I don't know, but a lot of people, that's how it goes. You're perfecting these to make each line really special. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Live is different than studio, so I think Peter's great on it.
Oh, no, Peter does a great job. But Paul did have a quote. Mm-hmm. I hate even saying stuff like this. Yeah. Paul had a quote that said, Peter wouldn't be capable of a good... This is not verbatim.
I know.
Peter wouldn't be capable of doing a good take vocally.
If his life depended on it.
If his life depended on it, as much as I can't throw a penny and hit the moon.
Yeah.
I think that was the quote.
Yeah. He was really mad at him, obviously, at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope they've made up. But
well, we know what Peter specialized in. He had a soulful rocker voice.
Oh yeah, he had a swing to his drum.
But he sounds good on here.
Oh yeah. So
it is a little bit fluff, but it's what it is. It delivered them to people who don't even care about hard rock. So,
Yeah, exactly. Probably why I found it in my sister's record collection.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it good or bad though? You know what I mean? It made them money. It put them on a bigger level, but kind of like
Peter's head.
Yeah, didn't want to leave the band after that. Yeah, exactly. But when you got I Was Made for Lovin' You, is it selling it to the wrong people? You know what I mean? Does it hurt you in the long run? I mean, I guess that's a question that comes up. But
yeah, exactly. It resurrected this album because this album was kind of starting to it stalled, right?
Yeah.
Because the first three singles really didn't do much.
Yeah.
They flip it around. Beth happens in the fall of '76, and next thing you know, you got a platinum album, you got a double platinum album, you got people taking notice.
Yeah.
But really quick about Beth, I got to credit Gene because it is a true story because it was in Peter and Gene's book that Peter was singing the melody. This is November '75. They're in a limo, probably heading back, and Gene said, "What is that? I like it. It's a song called Beth, blah, blah, blah." And then, Gene's story, you should change the name to Beth. Mm-hmm. People get confused with Jeff Beck. Anyway, long story short, Gene said you should present that to Ezrin when we're in the studio with him.
Yeah.
And he did. So if Gene didn't say that, this never would have happened.
Gene was a team player,
He was. Gene could recognize some with potential and things. Paul hated it and probably still does. Yeah. Okay, I know this because of this book has the invitation to it printed out. The booklet inside, Alive, or not Alive, but Destroyer 45. It has the invitation to a recording session where they invited, well, the orchestra was there, but they were gonna,
The choir?
the choir was there, but they invited press. It's Kiss, man. They
Oh,
overhype
yeah.
everything, right?
Oh, that's right. They got
Yeah.
Susan.
So it's January, here it is. It's small, but
It's the whole like top hat thing, and like when he's
yeah.
running
The first Kiss formal grand classical orchestral and choral overdubbing session with the Brooklyn Boys Choir. So they invited the press, like people like Cream and Circus, New York, some local New York press, to come to this recording session. And Kiss debuted their Destroyer outfits right here. Everybody's probably seen the pictures of, Kiss in those outfits and the choir and stuff in the background. So they recorded the Great Expectations choir, all the orchestration for that, and Beth, all right then in the same afternoon. Obviously did a lot of press, got some hype going.
Yeah.
And Peter was just singing scratch vocals as they were recording. But a couple days later is when they went in the studio and dimmed the lights and came up with Beth. But yeah, Paul wasn't happy about it. But again, probably like Gene, he probably thought, hey, the Beatles did Yesterday with orchestration, so, Paul was probably happy though. He had some great songs on the album, and, a lot of things went his way because he comes out as one of the MVPs of this album, if you ask me. Speaking of that, the next song, Do You Love Me?
Well, sure, but kind of as a friend.
Yeah, I
As
know.
a friend, Jason.
I know. Do You Love Me?
It's a great tune.
Paul has said he was influenced by Mott the Hoople and their kind of story, kind of songwriting. Ian Hunter was good at that. I think Bob came up with a lot of the music, kind of the melody, the chorus. He said he was in California and he was on the piano and came up with some of it. Paul changed some lyrics. Kim Fowley actually wrote some lyrics to it as well. Kim Fowley was he ended up being the manager of the Runaways, and he was the manager of that band we talked about earlier, Hollywood Stars. By the way, Hollywood Stars, here's a story I wanted to say about them. So Bob Ezrin was going to produce the Hollywood Stars in like 73, 74. And he heard their demos, and he told Kim Fowley, like, I like 2 songs, but otherwise I don't like your band. I'm not going to produce you.
Oh, really?
But after you break up, I want to use those 2 songs.
Really?
Yeah. So guess what? On Welcome to My Nightmare, you have Escape. Ends the album, amazing song. And then King of the Nighttime World is on this album. So, and then he told Kim Fowley, like, after I use those songs, you'll make more money off that than you ever would have with this band. And guess what? He was right.
Wow.
And so Kim Fowley ended up, he formed and managed the Runaways, of course, with Lita Ford and people like that. So anyway, Do You Love Me? Good song. Gotta love that drum beat. Pretty simple.
Yeah, it's got a killer drum sound.
And total Paul lover persona magnified.
Rock star shit. Yep.
Yeah.
What do you think about the outro? The whole like just collage little soundscape outro.
Rock and Roll Party.
Is that what it's called?
Okay, yeah. Well, that's
right.
That's what they call it, but I never known it as being called that until recently. Like what? That's what they call it? Okay, because Paul's saying that. It's just a stage rap, really. And some sound effects. I don't know. It's like Paul said that he just put that on there to extend the album.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I could take it or leave it.
Yeah, in my opinion, it doesn't really need to be there.
Yeah, it doesn't even get listed. Or anything.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, it was like the first bonus track ever on an album, like hidden thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Give it a few more grooves at the end of the.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm indifferent about Rock and Roll Party. I guess, it kind of starts with this little soundscape thing and it kind of ends with one. So it's like a bookend. But other than that, don't know what else to say about it. So anyway, so this comes out March 76. Goes platinum, or excuse me, gold pretty much right away. And ends up stalling until Beth came out. So anyway.
So when did you get this?
Late 70s, obviously, getting into the band. It's one of those albums you're going to love. And just late 70s. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, so I got Alive and Alive 2, as I've said, from a friend. He recorded the vinyl on cassette, and this is one of the next 2 or 3 that I got, So it's not like I was one of those original fans that was there through Alive, and then this came out, and I was like, what the heck? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of the first few that I really got, and so, it was magical then too. I remember listening to the intro to Detroit City and being really excited the very first time, like, where is this going to go? And that's what it's there for.
It ends in a car wreck, my friend. He dies.
Somebody
Spoiler
died.
alert.
And a fan did die, I guess.
Yes. Based on a true story.
Yeah.
Oh, really quick, something else I just learned recently. The line, Paul actually sings on the original record, Moving Fast Down 95. But they changed it when they realized their mistake, because there isn't a 95 in the Detroit area. It's like 75. They put in the lyrics, Moving Fast, doing 95.
Doing that.
But he really does sing.
That's pretty cool, though.
He really does sing down 95, which it does sound like. Now, I think Bob corrected that on Resurrected.
Down 95.
Yeah. Bob corrected it on Resurrected, so you'll hear doing 95 there, but yeah. Just a little tidbit for you. Let's make that Aerosmith connection.
So after this...
So this album is done, it's mastered, it's ready to hit the stores. Bob goes to England with his family and comes back, and he's got some messages on his machine from Jack Douglas, who, fellow producer, kind of his protege, produced all the classic Aerosmith albums. That's all you need to know.
I guess Bob Ezrin had the contract to do Aerosmith, and he sent Jack Douglas as his first major thing to go do it.
Yeah, I think that was
become your own guy. Get Your Wings. First one, yeah.
Ironically, Dick Wagner played on that album.
Yeah.
So
go figure.
So Jack Douglas, he said, on his messages, give me a call. So he called him up, and he told him, hey, I just got a call from Bill O'Coin, and I hate to tell you this, but they're kind of hesitant about this album you just did with them. And
at first they were like freaked out about it. They get caught up in the creative thing, and then they look back and probably go look at Beth and stuff and go, what did we do?
So basically they wanted Jack to, do you think they wanted to do the album over with him, or just him?
It sounded like, I never heard that, but I heard the next album. Like, maybe we should push another album out really quick to make up for this in case they don't like it because it doesn't rock or something, which is crazy.
Either way you look at it, a coin, and who knows, maybe even the band, but this was a coin speaking. They were, and the label, they were hesitant to put this album out. And, because it has a choir, because, the album still rocks. Let's get that straight.
Yeah.
Okay, but it wasn't your typical, 3-chord songs about sex. So the weird thing is Jack never did work with Kiss.
He never did.
No.
It would have sounded great, though.
Yeah, but you can't complain with Eddie Kramer taking over the helm.
Oh, yeah.
And then after Eddie Kramer, after Alive 2, or Ace's solo album, really, Eddie Kramer kind of disappeared for a while, and then they started working with Vinny Poncia. But what if they would have continued with Jack? It's one of those what ifs, He
just gets really nice, thick production. Rocks, just really nice, pretty high end, and just thick. Just
Toys in the Attic.
Thick sounding albums,
Yeah.
Toys in the Attic and Rocks. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, really.
Did he do Draw the Line? Probably, I would assume. He was their guy.
I thought he did.
Yeah, that album's a little more cluttered. There was a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
I
like most Draw the Line a lot.
Yeah,
It's most of it's really good.
Yeah. That's just kind of a little funny story.
Yeah, it is a funny story.
Yeah, it's like
Ezrin loves to tell it too. He usually tells that story when there's an interview about Destroyer or Kiss or whatever. But
yeah, so then obviously the album comes out, and here's the weird thing. So they're still on tour, or they go back on tour, and they go to England, and they're wearing their Destroyer Alive outfits. After this album came out, it's one of those weird transition periods. It's a weird transition period.
Why? They didn't have backups done in time?
I think they wanted to save them for the big Spirit of 76 summer tour. That's the only thing I can think of. But they were doing some Destroyer songs live. Shout Out Loud, Flaming Youth, God of Thunder, Detroit. Those were the 4 mainstays. Well, actually, Flaming Youth got dropped. They did do Sweet Pain the first night of the American tour. So yeah, so July 3rd to September 12th, they start the Spirit of 76 official Destroyer tour in their Destroyer outfits. Bob Seger opened up most of the tour. There were some other bands that were playing here and there with them, Ted Nugent, people like that. Anaheim, that was a big thing. That was a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so at this point,
Anaheim, that's a big bootleg.
Oh,
widely bootlegged show.
Anaheim, August 20th, 76.
Yeah.
That is like, yeah, that's probably top 3 widely spread Kiss bootlegs, I would say. That and Winterland and Houston, maybe. But the tour ends, and then guess what? The next chapter begins. And what does that lead us to?
The Elder?
So that's next episode. But we would be, it wouldn't do this whole thing justice if we didn't bring up something called the Paul Lynde Halloween Special.
Yeah.
Now, you could almost bring this up in our next episode, but they did do 3 Destroyer songs on there.
Yeah.
So mid-October, they film the Paul Lynde Halloween Special with guess who? Paul Lynde.
Yeah.
And a cast of people. I don't know. I can't remember the name.
Witchy Poo.
The Witchy Poo from Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
That must have meant a lot to Jean to be on the set with her. But anyway, so this, okay, if you had to pinpoint, this is when Kiss hit the big time. For lack of a better term, their Ed Sullivan moment, Paul Lynde Halloween Special. I know many people, including my friend Shane, that was the moment for them. Yeah. So I think it actually aired on Halloween, 1976. Detroit, Beth, and what was the other song?
King of the Nighttime World.
Was it that? Yeah. Okay, so
right?
That sounds So obviously they're lip syncing. That's obvious when you watch it. Peter's not really playing piano either.
It's really cool footage, though.
Oh man, even the camera work, that whole thing going on.
Yeah.
Detroit. How did he do that, by the way? It was so amazing. No, it's the whole show. If you watch it, it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
So cheesy.
Yeah, I have a DVD of the whole episode.
But classic. Classic. It's so cheesy. But Kiss is, I don't want to say performance because they weren't really playing, but so many people, that was prime time. So many people seen that.
Yeah, that was a big deal. Yep.
So that was October 76 and November 76. Enter Rock and Roll Over. And that's it for our Destroyer episode. Anything you want to say about Destroyer? In parting?
No, I just think it's one of those albums that you hear a lot of the songs all the time, but so it's easy to forget that it's really, if you have a little space from it for a while, you can hear it with fresh ears. It's just a magical album. You have to remember what you felt when you first heard it. I don't believe in being one of those snobs that's like, oh, Destroyer. Blah, blah, blah. I think it's just a masterpiece.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of dimensions.
There's a lot of reverbs and things that Bob Ezrin is doing with effects and instrumentation, like the piano stuff, like he really got together on the Alice Cooper albums that I hear on here. Interestingly enough, the first Peter Gabriel, there's tones you're hearing on here that you're hearing on the Peter Gabriel album, not the same kind of music really.
No.
But it was an era for Bob Ezrin when he really had command sonically and of the tools and stuff that were available at the time of the production. And it's just a great era for rock and for recording.
Oh, mid-70s. It's probably my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I call it Kiss's masterpiece.
Yeah.
So does Kiss, actually. It's amazing. Respect what Bob Ezrin did, even if it's not your favorite. He took them to a place they haven't even been since then, if you ask me.
And there's a reason why every time from the mid-'80s on, every single time you're reading about the new Kiss album that's going to come out. You know what I mean? You know what I'm going to say?
Oh, yeah.
They mention, we think it's kind of like Destroyer 2. You know what I mean? Or
They literally said that about Crazy Nights.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Most albums, they kind of say that, well, we're kind of, feeding off of our Destroyer, It's, and it never really does. I guess Psycho Circus tries to do that the most, maybe with its variety and with its a little too much variety.
It tries, but it fails.
Yeah.
Yeah, they even try to have the Peter ballad on side 2. No.
Too bad Bob Ezrin didn't make Psycho Circus, because
he was available. I mean,
the few songs that we all don't really, raise your glasses or whatever, the stuff that we're not really loving, he would have said no. He would have, because he just knows good music. And he don't mind saying no. He's tough enough to he would have just told him,
Yeah.
You don't mind breaking your heart for a minute. I'm like, fuck no, that song's not going on here.
Yeah, and Bob, he's still active to this day. He's recorded, actually, I think as we speak, he's doing an Alice Cooper record. He's done some recent Alice Cooper albums.
Yeah.
He did Welcome to, the number 2, My Nightmare. And that's not a bad album at all. Talk about an album with...
Really?
It's so varied. There's so much stuff on there. But it's really good, actually. That's actually a really good album.
You're one of those Alice Cooper fans, though. You'll like most of the stuff that, right? I mean,
yeah,
but
Ezrin did that, so I was listening very intently.
It's pretty good.
It's actually pretty good. It's different. It's not really a true sequel to Welcome to My Nightmare. Yeah. Even though it's called Welcome to My Nightmare. But it took me a while to start loving it, but it's good. Yeah. But yeah, Bob Ezrin, he did a lot of recent Alice stuff, and he's still out there. He did, in recent years, he did like Deftones and bands like that.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
He's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, no, Hanoi Rocks. Hanoi Rocks.
Oh, yeah. I like that he does not mind to tell the truth, and he just...
No.
He's an interesting guy to listen to interviews and stuff, because he just tells it like it is. And
he does. Yeah. So anyway, that's our Bob Ezrin Love Fest for tonight. Thank you for watching and subscribing and supporting. We reread all your comments. We love them all. And we hope you enjoyed Destroyer. And again, what's next again?
Rock and Roll Under... What's it called?
Something like that. I don't know. We'll have to figure this out before our next episode. We're going to read up on this thing.
You got to at least get the title down.
Okay. But that's coming up next. That'll be a fun one, right? Right?
Oh, yeah. That'll be cool.
Adios. Peace.